Women who dated older men as teenagers now realize they were predators. What's your story? 1. My first boyfriend was 22 years old. I was probably 13 to 14 something. He was very controlling, the kind that tells me I'm not allowed to say no if he asks anything. He used to ignore me for days and not reply to me, and very often made me send him nudes, and I hated it. But I wasn't allowed to refuse, or he would go find a girl who would satisfy him, a true woman. And I didn't see anything wrong at the time with this, but at least I didn't have intimacy with him even though he suggested that. Now I'm 21, and when I look back and think about it, I just feel so much shame and burden, and just ask myself why, and wonder, didn't he see that I was a freaking child? And I get filled with sadness, and I feel like that happening in such a young age contributed to things I have done and hate. All I can take from this is to be careful in the future and make sure it won't happen to my own kids. 2. I was 15 and didn't understand a thing about love or danger. I found out that he was married and had a child because he had disappeared, and I was trying to find out what happened. 3. I was 15 with a 21-year-old. He hung around the youth group and made all of us younger girls feel special with his attention. I was shy and quiet, and I didn't stand out much, but I wanted the special attention that all the prettier, peppier girls got. He wasn't interested until he found out my mom worked nights and I was home alone. We ended up getting into a pretty heated argument and split when, 2 weeks in, I still hadn't let him come over because I was terrified of what my mom would do if she knew I'd had anyone over while she was gone. 4. He was my guidance counselor. I didn't realize how creepy he was until he proposed. The whole thing was fucked. 5. I'm from a third world country where it is normal for 15-16-year-old girls to date guys in their early to late 20s, especially in the 90s when chat rooms became available thanks to the internet. At 13 to 14 years old, with my girlfriends, we would meet up with 18 to 19-year-old boys, which now I know it was not a good idea, but I didn't know any better back then. Until I moved to a different country where I learned that there were strict laws in place for adults dating/having intimacy with teenagers. I was too stupid to understand why my mom was so upset when at 14 I had a date and got picked up in a car by a 24-year-old who bought me ice cream at MC Donald's, but luckily he was very nice and took me home after. Can't say I wasn't pressured into doing intimate stuff at a very young age by much older men, but unfortunately, that was the norm. 6. My first boyfriend, I was barely 15, he was 21, worked in a local shop, and all the girls at my school liked him, so came as a bit of a surprise when the biggest dork ever, me, somehow landed him and not any of the popular girls. We dated for maybe 4 months. It turned out he was sleeping with 3 girls in my year, which I found confusing because I begged him to take my virginity to no avail. Always found that really weird and insulting that he never even wanted to sleep with me. Plot twist. My mom had stormed into the shop when we first started dating and told him, "If you take my daughter's virginity, I will unalive you with my bare hands." God bless my mom. 7. I was 14 and dated a 25-year-old cop. He never asked my age, and I never told. One day, we were chatting on the phone and I told him that I had some homework to do and I'd call back later. He said, "Freshman year of college getting to ya, huh?" I said, "College? I'm in high school." Dead silence, and then he asked how old I was, and I said 14. He freaked out and was saying, "I'm gonna go to jail for this, and I'm gonna lose my job." He said, "I can't see you again, and please don't tell anyone." I said, "Yeah, of course." I got why he was scared, and I never saw him again and never told. 8. I was 15 and met a 30-year-old who was the older brother of a boy I met in group therapy. He used to tell me how complicated and mature I was. Lol, so cliche. I'm now 24, and seeing or interacting with anyone who is 15 makes me sick. I felt so old then, but it's insane now how obvious it is to me that people that age are children. 9. I met a dude on Adult Swim's forums when I was around 12. He was 24 and was pleasant to me. Things always seemed hinky to me, even from the beginning, but I had no friends in real life and was definitely in an ugly duckling place, so I figured that if this is who was going to pay attention to me, so be it. He would tell me the things he wanted to do to me and eventually sent me a hideously Laura's picture of his dick, and all I remember is trying to laugh it off and said I thought he sent me a picture of a sock. Eventually, he started asking that if we met in person if he could tie me up and take notice of me. He started talking about buying a plane ticket to visit me and for my address, and I guess I finally had a gut feeling that was bad enough and didn't go through with it. My family eventually found out about us talking, and it was a huge deal. I was rightfully banned from the internet for a while, not that it mattered much because I wound up meeting another awful dude older than me, but this one was locally grown. Lol. 10. I was 16. A school teacher of 30 years used to touch me and text me stuff. I didn't realize it was bad until some years later when he married a girl from my class. I didn't tell anyone because I was scared that people would think that it was my fault. 11. My cousin in GA got with a guy when she was around 13, and he was around 26. She had 3 kids with him. He slept around with anyone willing, including his first cousin, her mom, my aunt, and her sister. He took advantage of her and fucked her self-esteem so much that she always took him back. Her 3 kids now all have kids, too. She is raising most of her grandkids. I feel sorry for all of them.